Good morning and welcome to Cindy's Kitchen. We are so excited that you are here. If you are new to Cindy's Kitchen, welcome. Get your cup of coffee. We make quick, easy, and yummy meals. Desserts, entrees, appetizers, salads, you name it, we make it. If you're not new, if you've been here before, welcome back. Glad to see you. For you new folks, if you're looking for where our recipes are so that you can print them out, please go to our YouTube channel, also conveniently called Cindy's Kitchen, and you can either rewatch the video or simply print out the recipe. Good to see you. Good morning. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So, what's cooking on Cindy's Kitchen today? Drum roll. We are making two things. The first thing we're gonna make is a corned beef, and the second is some southern mixed greens. Now both of these dishes are probably a little controversial, maybe for you, but especially if you're not in the South on the greens. The corned beef is not really a South thing, but it is one of my favorites. And traditionally, I make my corned beef in my slow cooker. That's the way I've made it for years and years and years. But most of you know that my slow cooker that I had for like 13 years developed a crack in it. And while I was gonna order a new slow cooker, I went a different direction and ordered an Instant Pot. I've only used my Instant Pot twice. And I loved both. I did a pork loin and I did some chicken thighs. And it was really good, but I still don't have a feel for how everything works. And it says it works as a slow cooker, but so I'm doing it a little differently. Good morning, Debbie. Good to see you. Oh, and Debbie's saying hi to Jessica. Good morning, Susan. All right, so we're gonna get started with the corned beef. There are a lot of ways that you can cook corned beef. There really are. You can do it in the slow cooker, you can do it in the oven, you can do it on top of your stove. And that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna do the stovetop method. So if you're looking, now what is a corned beef? Here's the educational part of our show. Ready? Corned beef. Some of you may know these things, but here we go. A corned beef is actually a beef brisket. I'm sure a lot of you know that. But the beef brisket is then salt cured, right? In a special blend of spices. And it's usually mustard seed, allspice, coriander, cloves, black peppercorns, and cardamom pods. And so with a lot of salt, obviously, and that's salt cured, and then, and so the meat takes on a whole different flavor, and then when you cook it, it remains pink, right? It remains pink. You'd love corned beef in the Instant Pot, so tender and less shrinkage. Oh, rock hard from foreign. Okay, I am gonna try. Oh, Mary Beth is half Irish. There you go. You've never made corned beef. Well, here we go. And so, corned beef takes a brisket, which you guys know, brisket is a tough piece of meat. And it tenderizes it through that curing process, that salt curing process. Now, I think most people think of corned beef on St. Patrick's Day. In my family, we had it twice a year. We had corned beef on St. Patrick's Day, and we had it on New Year's. We had corned beef, we had cabbage, because you know of all the myths, right? St. Patrick's Day, it was just like a traditional thing. But for New Year's, we had corned beef, cabbage was for money, black-eyed peas were for luck. I can't remember maybe the corned beef was good health. I don't know. But anyway, we had to have certain dishes. And even if you didn't like something, so there were people in my family that don't like black-eyed peas, even though the way I fix them, you should like them. And so the rule was, even if you don't like what we cooked, you had to take one bite. Or, there you go. Bad luck. And I'm guessing that a whole lot of people for 2020 didn't eat any of it. Because we are not having some good luck. All right, anyway. Corned beef is traditionally sold in one of two different ways. And so you need to read your package. It is either a flat cut or it's the point. So it'll say either round point or flat cut. Now, the flat cut is it's a more consistent thickness, okay? So the one I'm using today is a flat cut. So you can see that it's basically the same width all the way across, right? So this is a flat cut corned beef. And it's cut then, you know, if you're looking at the brisket, it's kind of cut more from the thicker end of the brisket. From the thinner end. The point, you've never heard of that. Yes, if you get the round or the point corned beef, it is from the end of the brisket and it tends to be fatter. It has more fat, more of that marbling, that tissue right there. I don't know. My mom always used the flat, so that's what I use. I've always used the flat. I don't know. If you guys have used the different ones, I have used a round one on occasion just when you can't find anything. This corned beef was not cheap for me. I want to say it was $10. And I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, it's a good size. It's 3 pounds. But what I normally do is I wait until like after New Year's or after St. Patrick's Day, and then they go on sale, and then I'll buy 4 or 5 of them and stick them in the freezer, and then we can have them all week long. I mean, all year long instead of, you know, just twice, because we really like corned beef. So brisket, just, you know, continuing our educational, brisket comes from the breast section of the cow, and so there you go. Corned beef can be made from round steaks, which is near the rear leg of the cow. But anyway, there you go. Let's go. Shall we go? Black-eyed peas symbolize wealth. Oh, see, that's different here. My mom always said it was the cabbage. Who knows? Who knows? All right, so let's get started. As I said, I used to do this in the slow cooker. I have something else for the Instapot today. I'll show you what I'm doing with the Instapot. This is a whole chicken. See the chicken? This is a whole chicken in here. And I got the whole chicken yesterday, and I made a brine, right? So it's just water, salt, and sugar. Now, sometimes brines have peppercorns or other things in it, but I just did salt and sugar and then covered it with water. And so it's a lot of salt, not as much sugar, and then I covered it with water. And I'm letting this brine overnight. I let it brine overnight in the refrigerator. Today, I will take it out, rinse it off, and then I'll put it in my Instant Pot, and then we'll go from there. When I do a chicken or a turkey, I always brine it for at least a day, and that just makes it more juicy, keeps everything in. Good morning, Gail. All right, so I'm gonna do it stovetop. This is traditionally called a Dutch oven, a soup pot, or a stock pot, okay? Oh, let's take that last sip of coffee, shall we? Vicky is making black-eyed peas with ham in her Instant Pot. I'm having a hard time saying the word, right? Because forever I thought it was an Instapot, not an Instant Pot with a T on the end. I really think they should have checked with me first. Anyway, lid off. So, big old pot. I like this one. Now, you can use the one that came with your sets of pots and pans. I like this heavy duty. This is like ceramic heavy duty with a very tight lid because it keeps everything in here. Now, I'm going to start off in the bottom of my pot. I'm going to put 1 onion that I've just sliced up and kind of sliced in half moons. Can you see? I didn't even separate it very well. See, half moons. And that's just 1 onion. And I'm putting it on the bottom. Why? Why, Cindy? Why put that onion in there? The brining method, amazing. It is, isn't it? Okay, I'm putting the onion on the bottom, and I do this in the slow cooker as well because I don't want my corned beef sitting right on the bottom of the pot or in the slow cooker right on the bottom of the slow cooker because then you've got that kind of direct heat hitting the meat. I want a layer of onion, and that kind of gives us a raise and keeps it, so then there you go. Peas for pennies, greens for dollars, cornbread for gold. Oh, never heard that either. Good to know. All right, so we have our onions on the bottom. Now, when you buy your corned beef, it's in a package, and for you, those of you who are a little squeamish, it's a little gross. You cut open the package, and there's blood everywhere. blood everywhere. If you're a vampire, you want to go ahead and rinse it. Always rinse your corned beef. So you rinse it under the sink and then pat it dry with paper towels. Even though it's already corned, so it's already brined, it's already got that salt to it, I went ahead and salted it again, just on the top layer on the fat. Because, you know, layers of yumminess, right? This is the fat side, and you can see the other side has no fat. See, that's the meaty side, and that's the fat side, okay? If you're gonna be baking this, you would cook it because that's, you know, normally if it's direct heat, you want the fat on the bottom, so it kind of crisps up. If it's indirect heat, which this is kind of, we're boiling it, even though I've got the bed of onions, I want the fat on the top. And I want the fat on the top because as it cooks, I want that flavor to drain down into the meat and then, of course, in my onions. Okay, so I'm just gonna set my corned beef on top of my layer of onions, okay? Now, the other thing, I love these. These are the wet ones. It's like 20 paper towels in one, and it kind of feels like you took 20 or 30 paper towels and put them all together, but you just wash them when you're done. I love these. Love, love, love. Anyway, in the package, you will see this. This is what you will see. It's a little package, and you're supposed to open this up and sprinkle it on the top. I don't like this package. Let me explain why. And I don't for two reasons. One, I don't think it's enough seasoning. And what is it? It's like mustard seed and allspice and all that stuff. But I just don't think it's enough. And the other thing is, when you're done, there's all these seeds and I don't want to eat the seeds. I don't. And so then I feel like I've got my knife or my spoon getting all the seeds off of the meat before I take it out to let it rest and cut it. So that being said, I throw this away. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Here's what I use. Here's my secret. My secret, in case you want to know. Now, this is, I'm sure it comes in different brands. This is Zatarain's crab boil. Zatarain's crab boil. Now, this does say extra spicy. I'm okay with that. And you would think, Cindy, crab boil? Because, you know, it's used for seafood. But, oh no. It has almost all the things in it that you would need for corned beef. So, it has red pepper, brown mustard seed, black pepper, coriander seed, dill seed, bay leaf, and allspice, which is what I like. The other great thing about this box, although one box, one bag. There we go. You see how much is in there? That's a lot. Let's compare, shall we? This is what they give you. This is what I'm putting in. You see the difference? My food is all about flavor. That is a little flavor. That's a lot of flavor, right? And it's all in a bag. So when I'm done, I just pull the bag out and throw it away, and I don't have to worry about picking seeds off things. Good morning, Sharon. Good to see you. Okay? So I'm going to take this. Remember, all I did was salt the top. I'm going to put a little pepper on the top. Actually, yes, a little, just a tiny bit. I'm a salt and pepper kind of girl. But really, we don't need any other seasonings because we're taking care of that with this. The onion on the bottom, salt and pepper, and the bag. We put the bag in, doesn't matter what side. I'm gonna tilt it so you can see. So there's my meat, my onions are on the bottom, and the bag is there on the side, okay? Now, we just wanna cover it with water. Covering it with water. You're like, well, why did you put all that stuff on top of the meat if you're just gonna cover it with water? Well, I did. It goes in the pot. Ugh. All right, so I'm gonna use enough to cover the corned beef. There we go, corned beef is covered. Totally covered with water. I'm gonna bring this to a boil. Once the water is at a boil, I'm gonna put the lid on it. I'm gonna turn the heat down to low, and I'm gonna kind of a medium low, and I'm gonna let this cook for 3 hours. Now, timing. This was a 3-pound corned beef. When you're cooking on the stovetop, or even if we're baking this, I have never baked a corned beef. Has anybody baked a corned beef? I've never done it. I've always made it stovetop or slow cooker. But your general rule is 1 hour per pound. So if you were doing a 1-pound corned beef, you'd cook it for 1 hour. If you're doing a 3-pound corned beef, which I am, 3 hours. There you go, right? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and put this over, well, actually, I'm gonna tell you, corned beef isn't, when Philip and I, you bake yours, Gail, huh? I may have to get your recipe and give that a shot when the price of corned beef goes down, because I'm not paying what I paid for this one. Here's what, when Philip and I got married, we loved corned beef. And so I would make a corned beef roast. Oh, like a roast, okay. I would make the corned beef and this size, so like a 3-pounder. And Philip and I would have corned beef, cabbage, and potatoes for dinner. That being said, there was usually half of the corned beef left when we got done. So the next night, we always had Reuben sandwiches. Love Reuben sandwiches. So you have to use like the rye bread and the spicy mustard and sauerkraut and then Swiss cheese and then the leftover corned beef. So awesome. Then we had children. And the children, there was no leftover, you know, they started liking the corned beef and there was no leftovers. Boo. And so there was no, you know, you gotta have some leftovers, right? And so then I had to cook 2 corned beefs just so we could have leftovers. So that we could have the sandwiches, because you need the sandwiches, right? All right, I'm gonna put this on the stove. Very heavy, ooh, very heavy. I'm gonna take the lid off and bring that to a boil. All right, I am gonna show you one other thing, if I can find it. Hold on, I'm looking. I should have got it out earlier. I guess people eat a whole lot of different things with their corned beef. I know some people use mustard. I love Reuben's too. Some people use regular mustard, spicy mustard, whole grain mustard. I know that you guys think I'm weird. When I did the beans and I said that I put chow chow on the beans and that I don't want to eat my beans without chow chow, I know most of you are like, chow chow, I've never even heard of that. But that was a different lesson. This is something that I grew up with and now I have to eat it. I have to buy it on Amazon because I can't even find it at the grocery stores anymore. This is called Durkee. That's the brand name. Famous sauce. Durkee famous sauce. And it says sandwich and salad. And really all it is, it says a tangy mustard mayo flavor. And that's probably all it is mustard and mayonnaise and, oh it is, and vinegar, egg, spice. They don't want to tell you all what's in it. Anyway, but it's awesome. Oh, I've done the Reuben casserole too. So good, so good. But really not a whole lot of leftovers, Nina. Anyway, so this is my favorite. It's called Durkee's Famous Sauce. And so when I eat corned beef, this is the one I have to have. Remember, I'm not selling anything. I don't get paid by anybody. I'm just telling you the stuff I like. If you like it, great. We're just cooking. Okay, so now that we've got our corned beef done, I use the leftover cooking stock juice as a base for pea soup or black-eyed peas. Vicki, that's a great idea. Awesome idea. All right, let's take a sip, shall we? Cheers. Okay, now we move to our greens. There's people lurking. You know how I feel about the lurking. Somebody say hello. Oh, so basically, apricot preserves and brown sugar. Well, that's a whole different taste. Horseradish. Yum, Margaret. Now that I would do. Gail, I'm not so certain. That's a whole different meal. I don't even know if it would taste like corned beef. I might be willing to give it a shot though, especially if I can find them on sale. All right, so the next thing, I know that I'm gonna shock and appall some of you because you're like, ugh. My friend Mary Beth's on here and she specifically, I think she is not a fan of the next thing I'm going to make. Good morning, Mary. Was it your anniversary last week? I think it was. Happy anniversary if it was. So we're also going to do greens. Now, when I say greens, some of you think of, and most people will do a traditional thing. So they will make mustard greens, collard greens, or turnip greens. Now, also in that green family is kale and spinach, but I'm not using kale or spinach today. I have used spinach. I will not use kale. I don't like kale. Hey, Linda. And that's just me. I know there are a whole lot of people, kale-loving folks out there, enjoy, but no kale for Cindy. And I don't have the spinach today. But they make greens, yes, 56 years. I knew it was. Whoops, hold on. Okay. They make a pot of collard greens, or a pot of turnip greens, or a pot of whatever. I know, Sharon, but I can change your mind. I promise you I can change your mind. All right, so let me show you the differences. This is a collard green, okay? The collard green is a bigger, really kind of, it's got more, it's like a tougher, like a paper towel, right? It's a thicker green, okay? And it's got a big stem down the middle, and then these veins, okay? Compare that then to a turnip green, okay? A turnip, maybe I need to hang them upside down. There you go. See how a turnip green is kind of more, say, this one kind of goes like that. This is a thinner green. They're very nutritious for you, yes. And you can see that the veins are finer. They're not as thick, nor is this, oops, I'm going the wrong way, nor is the stem. Okay, so we have turnip and we have we have collard and we have turnip. Now, the last one is the mustard green, and here's the mustard green. Look at the edges on the collard green. You see how it's really smooth? Then we move to the mustard green. It's a little bit floury. You know, it's a little bit more, there you go. Now look, compare that then to the mustard green. You see how it's more dainty. It looks more like a flower. And sometimes the ends are a little ruffly. This one is the most tender, okay? The mustard green is the most tender. And then you go to the turnip green, and the one that's the least tender is the collard green. That being said, I think you need all these different textures. I think it's important, okay? All right, I'm gonna take this off just a second. Ooh. Ooh, very hot. Very hot, I tell you. Ooh. Here's what I did. I had to do something ahead of time. Now, I'm making 6 bunches of greens, which means that's a lot, so that's why. But for your bunches, you'd need probably 3 to 4 pieces of bacon. I started and I cut it up. Can you see in there? I cut up the bacon and I started to brown that. And then when it gotten a little color on it, you don't need it crispy, but just a little color, because we want the bacon to release its juice, its yummy juice. That's what we're calling it. Then I added a whole onion that I had sliced up, just like I sliced for the corned beef. So cabbage and collards are also good together. Oh, I hadn't done that one yet, Nina. I'll do that. All are very easy to grow. Good to know. All right, and so then I sauteed. As a reminder for you, those of you who haven't heard before, if you've got bacon in and then you add onions, the bacon will stop the crisping process, okay? So if you're looking for crispy bacon, you need to cook your bacon till it's crispy, then remove it, then put your onion in, because once you put your onion in, it's gonna release water that's in the onion, and that means that the bacon will not crisp up anymore. I didn't need it crispy, so I'm okay with that. All right, so we've got some, like I said, bacon and onion. You see how that's all gone? That's gonna be my base, and we're gonna put this back on the stove. Well, I will in a second, because we're gonna add. Now, how do I prep the greens? This recipe violates one of the tenets of Cindy's Kitchen. And the tenets are, what are the tenets? Say it all together. Come on, you're online. There are 3 things on Cindy's Kitchen. Come on, tell me. What is it? 3 things. Type it in. Come on. Quick, easy, yummy. Quick, easy, yummy. Those are the things that it has to be. This is not quick. It is very easy and it is awesomely yummy. But the quick part we are violating today. All right, so let me start with the hardest one, and that is the collard green. So the reason most people don't like greens is because what happens is people buy greens and they may cut off this stem, but then they just chop up what's left. This stem is very bitter. It's like very bitter, okay? And sometimes these veins are very thick and they're bitter as well. They are cheap, really. I mean, easy and cheap. So now, to avoid the bitter, that's why a lot of people don't like it. One, there's no bacon in theirs. Hello. Two, people don't prepare them correctly to go in. And three, there's some other stuff you gotta add. Okay, so here's the easiest way to do it. I take 2 fingers. It doesn't matter which 2 fingers, right? And I put my 2 fingers between the veins. You see the veins right there? And I pull. You just pull, okay? Between the veins and pull. What'll happen is the tougher part of the vein will remain behind, okay? And so then you won't get that. It's kind of like when you're doing asparagus at clips. Okay, so you see how I'm doing? I'm just putting those 2 fingers and I'm pulling. It's not difficult, but you see how the tough part stays behind? And so that's what we have left. This little spinal cord, if you will, right? That's what we have left, and I throw that away. I know, I've watched some of these farming shows where, you know, you use everything and you throw nothing away, and I could chop this up and make it into something, but I'm not going to. There you go. Okay, so that was the collard green. Here is the turnip green. Same applies, but you're gonna get most of it off. You see? You get most of it off. See how it all just comes off? And that's because this is more tender and those veins are thinner, okay? But there you go. Great tip for collards. Thank you. And then finally, we have our mustard. Now, the mustard is so easy. You can just, those veins are almost non-existent. You can fold it in half. You can do this on any of them if you're in a hurry. Fold it in half and then just do the same thing, okay? And as you do it, you see, as you fold it in half, the same thing happens. And then the last part. So you're still left with this, and then you're left with this. I tear my collard greens, so you saw how they get torn. So I don't cut them up. This is it. So you may have a piece this big or this big, although they're gonna shrink significantly, okay? Now, the other thing is, mustard greens are fine, collard greens are fine, turnip greens are fine. But I have to tell you, for the best flavor, I combine all 3 in one pot. And I think it gives you the best texture, the best taste, and the best looking. It just does, I think. Anyway, so I've got all of this. Now, the biggest thing I have to tell you why this is not quick and it's a pain in the patukas is, 1, you have to do this by hand. 2, there is a ton, and I mean a ton of sand in greens. And so you think that if you put them in a sink and rinse them, that's enough. No, 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 no. You need to rinse and rinse and rinse. And quite frankly, after I rinsed and rinsed and rinsed, and then I cut all the stuff off, I then put them in, this is a huge bowl, but remember, this is 6. This is 6. So my recipe I'm gonna give to you is 3 bunches. But a friend wanted some, so I'm doubling up. This is 6 bunches. See how big this bowl is? But it's gonna go just like when you cook spinach. I covered them with water and then did all this, like massage. I moved it around, and then I took the greens out, put them in a different thing, and dumped the water. The bottom of the bowl was covered in sand. It looked like we'd been to the beach. The beach, I tell you. I filled it with water again, I did. And so I did that like 3 times, because you want to do it until when you take them out and you look down, there's no more sand or grit in the bottom. That's another reason people don't like, because, you know, they've tasted it, and either they get this bitter, bitter stem, and they're like, bleh, or they have this gritty taste in their mouth, and that's because the greens weren't cleaned properly. Okay, so here we go. We have all of our greens. Now, what we're gonna have to do, because they're so mountainous, it's just like when we do spinach, we're gonna have to add the greens just a little at a time. So I'm gonna go ahead. So here's our big Dutch oven, stock pot, whatever you want to call it. You see, there we go, with our bacon and onions. I'm going to put this back on the stove because it should be hot, right? Because we're cooking. And I'm going to start off by I'm going to fill the pot with greens. Look, are you seeing these big handfuls I'm putting in there? I'm going to fill the pot, and then I'm going to go stick it. There we go. I'm going to go stick it on the stove, and let it start to cook, okay? No lid, we're just cooking. Oh, my corned beef, it's a boiling. So I'm gonna turn it down to low and put the lid on. Yum. Okay, now my greens are on there. Now what else goes in the greens? So we're gonna let that cook, and then the easiest way, because quite frankly, if you do this, try to do this, or a spoon, because the ones on the bottom that are, you know, right there where the heat is, they're gonna start to do this. Don't you wish there was a weight loss thing for that? Like, I would be a green. If I could go into a sauna and I would go, man, wouldn't that be great? Yes. Anyway, that's what happens to the greens. They get in contact with that heat on the bottom, and they have started out like this, and then they suck up. And so that gets smaller and smaller. Just like when you're cooking spinach, right? That's something that you know. As it gets smaller, you need to turn, because the ones on the top are not hitting the heat. I really suggest a pair of tongs, okay? Waka, 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 waka. Anyway, tongs are what I suggest, because then you can reach in, grab the ones from the bottom, and kind of do a flip, okay? So that, to me, is easier than trying to use a spatula or a spoon, because when I've done that, it's just greens are flying everywhere. They've flipped outside the pot. Good morning, Sherilyn. Okay, so we have about half of our greens left, so they're gonna go in next. Then I'm gonna tell you the other secret ingredients. I'm gonna let them come down just a little bit. And right before I add the last bit, I'm gonna add, we need water, we need garlic, we need sugar, we need apple cider vinegar, and we're gonna use some chicken stock. Remember, everything, all of our flavors are about layering. If you just take a bite of this, you might go, grass, right? It doesn't, so our first layer was our bacon, and our bacon released its juice, and that's all yummy. Our second layer was the onions. They're releasing their stuff and melding. Now I'm gonna go ahead, and flip. Actually, I may bring it over here because I want you to see what it looks like on the bottom. My hands aren't working well today, but we're gonna give it a shot. Oh, on and off the heat I go. Okay, look, here we go. So you can see, I'm gonna reach down. See the ones on the bottom are already starting to shrink up and get smaller. So I'm gonna just give all of this a turn so everybody can swim, right? Everybody needs to get down. We'll add the cooking liquid in just a little bit. It's almost like we're steaming them. Now look how far down they've gone. Now, I'm gonna put them back over there, but before I do, I'm gonna add a few more ingredients. The first thing I'm gonna add is some roasted garlic. Now, you know me and my roasted garlic, so I'm gonna add 4 or 5. Look at that big wad of roasted garlic. I'm not gonna smash it up because it's just lovely. But remember the sweet flavor from roasted garlic? That's a whole nother layer that we're adding to this. We're also gonna add, and look at me, I will measure today because some of you are not happy with my non-measuring. I'm also gonna add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Really, Cindy? Yes, because we're gonna add just a little bit of acid to this. A little bit of acid, okay? We're gonna need, also, where's my thing? Oh, there we go. We're also gonna need a tablespoon of sugar. We've got the sweet, we've got the acid. Now we're gonna do a tablespoon of sugar. I know, you're freaking out a little bit, aren't you? And then we're gonna need a teaspoon of salt. I know, I didn't measure that one. And half or a whole, depending on how much you like it, of pepper, okay? I'm gonna give this one more toss. Oh, so good. The smells are delightful. Now, if you don't have, I'm gonna put this back on the stove. Ready, here we go. Oh. Okay, we're gonna let that cook for a little bit longer. Tell me, since we're watching, have you eaten greens, whether they be mustard, collard, turnip, or kale or spinach, right, you know, as a green? And if you did you like them? So I'm very curious to see especially the non-South people, like people from Illinois and Michigan and wherever you might be. Have you had greens, or is it it's a funny thing that you watch on the movies that have wacko Southern people that talk like this? I hope y'all guys are gonna enjoy our greens today, cause we're just gonna mix them all up. I know that people talk like that, but no. Mary Beth, no and no. Yes and yes. Okay, if no to the first one, Mary Beth, you can't say no. You're a Hoosier. Okay. All right. So, those have cooked just, see, it doesn't take long. It takes a little longer because I'm going back and forth, taking it off the heat. And I suppose I could have moved you over there, but I'm not. I don't make them anymore because yours are the best. Ha! Mother, grandmother. Growing up, oh, wait. Good, she made you. I'm glad. Love collards, don't like the others. You're a Midwestern. Okay, love them. Only had spinach, raw, not cooked. Okay, I'm gonna tilt this, but I wanna show you how far down. Remember, this was to the top. I put it to the top. Look how far down it's gone. Do you see that? And we don't have anything else in here. So I'm gonna add the rest of our greens. I really think if you give it a shot with the combination, it really, to me, took it to the next layer. It really did, okay? I'm just squeezing these because a little bit more of the water was in there. All right, so this is actually, like I told you, 6 bunches, just because I'm making extra for someone else. Okay, because I've gone ahead and added that, I'm gonna add one more layer of flavor, and that's a can of chicken stock. You don't have to do this one, and sometimes when I haven't had it, I haven't added it all. Okay. Now, I'm gonna let that cook just a bit. Love kale. Sauteed beet greens. Oh, I've never had those, Gail. Wow. No one ever converted me to Brussels sprouts either. I love you, sweetie. You're so funny. Anyway, so I'm gonna let those cook just a bit so that they go down. And once they go down, then I'm gonna add some water. Well, that one has no water. This one does. Okay, then I'm gonna add some water just to cover them. And I'm gonna turn it down to low, put the lid on it, and let them cook for about 30 minutes. That's it. That'd be me. Just mix whatever greens I can get. That's how we talk in Arkansas too. You do not talk that way in Arkansas. I know a lot of Arkansas people. Anyway, so I'm gonna cover it with water, put the lid on it, turn it down to low, and let it cook for 30 minutes, and then you should be done. And they'll cook way down, and they'll kind of look like the spinach, like when you're sauteing spinach. I think it's just a flavor explosion. And so Philip and I had first got married, and I was in the apartment, and he calls from work, and he says, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm so excited. The grocery store had greens on sale, and they were 3 for $1. So I got 3, and I'm making the greens, and it's quiet on the other side. Now, we've been married a month, and he says, I'm like, what? He says, I don't like greens. Really? Okay. And to me, that's always a challenge. I'm like, come to, all of you folks who say I don't like it, I'm like, come to my house. Come here. I will fix it where you will like it. I will. Anyway, it's just a challenge to me. So I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. They were on sale, and I have a big pot of them. So there you go. And I usually make cornbread because, and I'll tell you why. So he comes home, and I'm like, well, just give it a try. And, I'm the new wife. And so, at that time, when you're newlyweds, you want to make each other happy. He was like, okay. So he takes a bite. There were no greens left by the end of the night. None, I tell you. None. Okay, this is cooked down a bit. I'm going to go get them again. Oh. When it rains here, my arthritis is killing me. Like, killing me. Okay, look. Oh. So we have the ones on the bottom. They're also going to turn a darker color. You see how bright green these are? As they cook, they're going to turn a darker color. It's just like spinach. You know how spinach goes down. Now look, the whole thing has gone down, and it's only half of this pot. Remember the first time we did it, it was like over the top, and we only had half in there, okay? So because we're at that moment, I'm gonna go ahead and add the water. There we go. All right, so now I've got water in here. It's gonna cook down. I'm gonna bring this to a boil. Bring it to a boil. Ooh, back over here. I love those pots because they cook so well, but they're so heavy. It's just like my cast iron skillet. I have to use it, but it's so heavy. The thin ones just don't cook the same. Anyhow, so we're gonna bring that to a boil. Then we're gonna put the lid on it, turn it down to low, let it cook for 30 minutes, and there you go. Now, the other thing, just a southern tip, if you will, the liquid that is in the bottom of your greens, right? Southerners refer to that as pot liquor. Pot liquor. And it sounds bad, right? Pot liquor, you didn't put any liquor in there, right? But the reason is you almost want to drink the pot liquor. I dip my cornbread in it. Like, you know, it's that good. The pot liquor is quite lovely. I don't like to eat greens on a plate, right? So some people, when the greens are done, they'll use their tongs or a slotted spoon and they'll get a bunch of greens and kind of shake all the liquid out and then put it on a plate. I like it in a bowl because I want the greens on there, but I want some of that pot liquor too, so that I can either crumble some cornbread over there or dip my cornbread into the pot liquor because it's that good. So what did we make today on Cindy's Kitchen? The first thing we did is we learned all about corned beef, where it comes from, how it's made, and then we put together one that's going to be cooked on the top of the stove. Of course, you could do slow cooker or baked. Those are different recipes than what I did today. And all we did with that is we put a layer of onion. We washed our corned beef. We put a little salt on the top. We put a layer and dried it, patted it dry. We put a layer of onions in the bottom of our pan. We put the corned beef on top, fat side up. And then we put the little bag, the flavoring bag, which is my crab boil bag. And then we brought all that, covered it with water, brought it to a boil, put the lid on it, turned it down. 1 hour per pound. I am nowhere near done. You need to go away, sign lady. No, I'm almost done. I'm almost done, sign lady. Anyway, so she's the sign lady. There you go. That's what we did. Now, the other thing I need to warn you, if you've never made a corned beef before, I should have done this before I put it in the pan. I'm so sorry. The important thing when your corned beef is done, so 1 hour per pound. I'll cook this for 3 hours on low. Then you want to take it out and set it on your cutting board and let it rest for at least 15 minutes. Do not cut it straight out of the pot. Let it rest for 15 minutes. And then, here's the important thing. This is crucial. You need to cut it across the grain. And what do I mean by that? Gosh, I really wish I would have shown you first. So when you're looking at meat, there's like a grain, right? You can see that the meat runs one direction, okay? And so as the meat runs that direction, I'm not gonna cut my hand, but there you go, right? So you don't wanna cut along the grain, you wanna cut across the grain, okay? Just like this. What I normally do is I turn my corned beef at an angle so that, you know, it's a square, it was a rectangle. So I kind of turn it and I start with the tip, where the tip is, and I cut that way. The other thing is you might want to use your bread knife that's serrated on the edge instead of your chef knife. The one that's serrated, you know, then you can get nice, even cuts. The longer that you let it cool, see that's the serrated one, the longer that you let it cool, the easier it is to cut. And, you know, so you want to do, I know, Debbie, you do love the sign lady. Thin slices or thick slices, wholly up to you, okay? But always cut against the grain because otherwise it's tough and chewy and rubbery. It's a magic thing, I don't know. Then we learned all about greens. Turnip greens, mustard greens, and collard greens. By the way, the growing season for these greens is spring and fall. We're smack dab in the middle of summer, so sometimes it's hard to find good ones because the growing season, but if you want them, and they're usually much cheaper, spring and fall. We learned that this is very bad. Bad, bitter, icky, nasty. And the important way to get it off is to use 2 fingers to go between the veins and take them off. That's the first important thing. The second important thing is wash, wash, wash. Lots of sand in greens. Wash, wash, wash. And as soon as they're clean, there's no more dirt going into your bowl, then they're washed okay. We started out with some 4 pieces of bacon chopped up to get our bacon juice. Then we added an onion that had been sliced. Once that was all cooked, we started adding our greens. We put in half at a time, let that cook, gave it a toss with our tongs, let it cook down a little bit more, and then I went ahead and added our other flavorings, our other layers of flavor. And that was a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of white granulated sugar, a teaspoon of salt, a half to a teaspoon of black pepper, and a can of chicken stock. Although, again, if you don't have the can of chicken or veggie stock, you can simply use water. Then we put in the rest of our greens, let them wilt just a little bit, and then covered the whole thing with water. We will bring that to a boil, then turn it down to low, put the lid on, and let it cook for an hour. I hope you learned good Southern things today. There's that sign lady. Don't forget, if you want the recipes to go what she says, subscribe to the Cindy's channel YouTube. Please share with your friends. And if you have ideas or recipes that you'd like me to make, send me a message. I hope you have a lovely day. From my kitchen to your kitchen, I hope you try these wonderful Southern favorites. We'll see you again tomorrow at 11. Bye-bye.